Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Sunday. We've still got some combine work going on today. We've got some interesting results for sure from some of the offensive linemen, the running backs. We got some bench press numbers from yesterday, and it will all be discussed, believe you me. But we got a little bit of news earlier today, and I got to take some time to talk about this one because this would be big. This would be significant for the Seahawks, and it would kind of change a lot of potential offseason plans. So let's dive in here from Dov Kleeman of the NFL Twitter circles and other sources as well. The Seahawks are still working on a long term deal with quarterback Geno Smith, but, and this is the kind of important part here, it would be a surprise if the team uses the franchise tag on him. Meaning that if the two sides don't reach a deal in time, Geno would be able to test the free agency market. So basically, a lot of offseason plans that fans, not even fans, people who follow the NFL in general have come up with for what happens with Geno Smith has involved tagging and then either negotiating with him or trading him. And according to these reports, the franchise tag is becoming less likely of a weapon that the team utilizes to either maximize assets or maximize leverage on Geno Smith. So this comes as a surprise to a lot of people. I think a lot of people aren't very happy with this, and I want to talk about why this might be the case, because the franchise tag is something that gets used by a handful of teams pretty much every year. It's not a rare thing to see. Most off seasons, you see at least 5 franchise tags put out. We've already seen 2 this year, by the way, and we will almost certainly see at least a few more. So it's not like the franchise tag is collecting dust in the corner and nobody uses it because it's such an inappropriate or inadequate weapon to utilize. No, this gets used all the time. And it seems perfectly set up to be utilized on a player like a Geno Smith. And now we're getting these reports that apparently we're not looking to franchise tag Mr. Geno Smith. So that could mean a handful of different things. The reasoning behind not using the tag on Geno, I could see it a few different ways. Now, some of the reasons why we could not use the tag on Geno when it makes sense to use it on him I would qualify as being bad reasons, but there are a couple that I think are actually good and sensible and logical as well. So let's go through starting with the bad ones. Bad reason number 1 to not use the franchise tag on Geno Smith would be, and this is my least favorite, this is the thing that I know some people are going to be talking about in the comments, but I completely reject, is this idea of, oh, it would be disrespectful. It would be disrespectful to use the franchise tag on Geno Smith because he made the Pro Bowl last year and we only gave him $7 million. So out of respect, out of trying to get him to appreciate us and like us and not creating bad blood, we're going to just let him walk. I don't buy it. Sorry, guys, I don't buy it. I know there are going to be some people in the comments who talk about things along that vein. I don't buy it at all. Sorry. Think about it this way, guys. We already know that this team, this Seahawks team, has said, we know that they don't like to use void years. They don't like to abuse the salary cap. They don't like to be uber aggressive in the way they structure their contracts. We already know these things. Last year, John Schneider was quoted as saying, we want to be a pay-as-you-go team. That, I'm sorry. Now, sometimes that's great. Sometimes that's exactly what you want to do. But it does, at the end of the day, when you're really trying to win titles, it puts you at a competitive disadvantage. It does. So that's what we're dealing with right now. Now, the reason could be the fact that Jody Allen's planning to sell the team as soon as she can, and she doesn't want to give out a bunch of bonus money when she's planning on ditching the team in the next couple years. It could be just because that's how John Schneider looks at things. It could be a lot of different reasons. We don't know exactly why, but one reason or another, that's what we're dealing with right now. So if you're going to say, oh yeah, and also we're going to be a team that doesn't use the franchise tag because we think it's disrespectful, that's another competitive disadvantage. You put those two things together, and it's like, how are we ever going to keep really good players? We can keep them maybe when they're coming off the rookie deal because it's either they sign an extension or they're stuck on their super cheap deal, like what we did with Metcalf. But if we're not willing to use tags on players out of respect, then on top of the fact that we're not willing to stretch the cap the way other teams are, it just puts you at a competitive disadvantage. I'm sorry, it does. And you put those two things together, it's a pretty big competitive disadvantage. And at the end of the day, to John Schneider, who has done a really good job lately, I think, I'm sorry, but if you're not willing to do those things, then at what point do you say, at what point can you even say you're working for the Seahawks anymore? You work for the Seahawks. You don't work for Geno Smith. You don't work for the players. You work for the team. Is Geno Smith being nice by agreeing to pay for way less than his market worth? No. So why should you be nice? It's business. It's a negotiation. I don't play that game. Reason number 2 that you might not be tagging Geno Smith that I think is bad. So this is like bad reason number 2 is there's no trade market for him. I know some people are going to suggest this one as well. I want to say right here, right now, I don't buy it at all. Look, if you tag and trade Geno Smith, all you need to make it worth your while is 1 third-round pick. 1 single solitary third-round pick makes it worth it. Because if Geno walks in free agency, you are probably going to get a future third-round pick, a compensatory pick. So that would be a bottom of the third-round pick in 2024. So honestly, you could argue it would be worth it if you could get 1 fourth-round pick. But let's say it's 1 third-round pick. Are you trying to tell me that there's no team out there that would give you 1 third-round pick for Geno Smith? I don't. Sorry. If you say that, I'm going to call you a liar. I'm going to say you are full of it. Sam Darnold got traded for a second-round pick and third-round pick, what was it, 2 years ago? Maybe it was a year ago. Either way, Sam Darnold is actually bad at football, or at least he's not good. Some people are going to say, oh, Geno's only had 1 good year. Sam Darnold has had 0 good years. So I don't buy that at all. If you're going to say that Geno Smith has no trade value and there's no point in tagging him, I'm going to say you don't understand the way this league works at all. He's a quarterback. Quarterbacks get overvalued. That is the way this stuff works. He's coming off a Pro Bowl season. You're trying to tell me Washington wouldn't give up at least 1 second-round pick for him? You're wrong. I'm sorry, you're wrong. You have some biased, unfair view of how good Geno Smith is if you don't think you could at least pull that. So if the argument is Geno Smith, nobody was going to want to trade for him anyway. Nobody would have given up anything for him. He was worth like a 5th-round pick at best. Basically, that's what Baker Mayfield was worth last year, right? When the Browns had to give away Baker Mayfield, I think it was like a 5th-round pick. Yeah, Geno Smith is worth more than Baker Mayfield. So, yeah, I'm not buying that argument at all. And if that's what the Seahawks try to sell after not tagging him and just letting him walk, basically trying to argue that the compensatory third-round pick we get for him next year is worth more than the trade value, no, not happening. I'm going to call them liars until I go to my grave over that one. So those are the 2 reasons that I don't believe, that I don't buy, and that I would accuse of being not in good faith if the team or any fans tried to use them. However, there are a couple things I can think of that would make this decision understandable, that would make the refusal to use the franchise tag maybe even a good decision, and I think those things need to be discussed as well. So here is reason number 1 why I think it might be good to not use the tag. Quite simply, the Seahawks already have full confidence that Geno Smith is going to sign an extension. They already feel like, yeah, this is going to happen. We're going to get a deal done. It's over. Geno's not trying to squeeze every last dollar out of the salary cap. And we don't want to rock the boat. We don't want to upset him. We don't want to irritate him with the tag. We just want to say, okay, we're going to completely negotiate in good faith here. If we can't get it done, you will be able to test the market. There's no tags involved. And we feel like we're going to be able to get this done for somewhere between 32 to 35 million, which would be less than his market value. And if you don't believe that, Daniel Jones, who is barely a starting caliber quarterback, is supposedly going to get well over 40 million. So if Geno Smith does take that 32 to 35 million, he is taking well less than he could get on the open market. And if the Seahawks believe Geno's amenable to that, and they're just trying to not rock the boat and they're just trying to finish up the paperwork here, then yeah, it makes sense to take the franchise tag off the table because there's no point. Now, what I would say to this is part of the reason why you would maybe get Geno Smith to take a deal that is $32 to $35 million a year, which is well below what he could get on the open market, is because he has the franchise tag hanging over his head. So taking that off the table, I mean, the carrot doesn't work very well when you take away the stick, right? So if you're basically acknowledging, look, there's no tag, you take away the stick, the carrot of the long-term contract doesn't seem as appetizing. So that part of it is a little bit weird, but maybe everybody's playing nice. Maybe Geno's playing nice with his contract negotiations, and we're deciding we're going to play nice too. I guess that's possible. In my experience, players don't do that, but not every player is Geno Smith. Maybe Geno Smith is looking at this differently. Maybe he's just thinking, look, I got enough money. I'm going to get enough money in this long-term deal. I'm fine. Just let me stay with a good team, a good organization that believed in me when a lot of other organizations would not. Maybe there's some of that going on there. That's possible. That's at least on the table, and it's basically a done deal that the extension is going to get done. We don't know exactly what it's going to be yet, but it's going to be reasonable, it's going to be fair, and we're going to feel pretty good about things when you look at what Daniel Jones is about to get and what maybe even some of these other quarterbacks are going to get. So maybe it's that simple. So that would be a good reason to not threaten the tag. It's already a done deal. He's going to get extended. They just need to dot the I's, cross the T's, and talking about the franchise tag would just maybe irritate him. The other good reason that I can think of for not utilizing the franchise tag is kind of a weird one here, but maybe it is possible that the team believes that if the franchise tag came out for Geno Smith, he would immediately sign the tender and be content to play on a one-year deal for $32 million or whatever it is. I think it's right around $32 million a year. Maybe the team believes that he would just be like, okay, and then he would just sign it and be good to play for 1 year. Which, look, teams don't really like it when players play on the tag because there's no backloading to the contract. It's just one big cap hit. And if Geno Smith were franchise tagged and played on the tag, that would take up all your cap room. All the cap room would just be gone. And you could definitely create some, enough to get your rookies in and maybe sign one or two guys. But the franchise tag on Geno, if he plays on it, basically shuts down the rest of the offseason. So maybe they're thinking, okay, it's not a legitimate threat because Geno doesn't view it as a threat. He would just sign and be like, okay, let's go. He's made, like, what was it? I looked it up, like $15 million in his career in NFL salary. So even the tag would be more than double what he's made in his whole career for 1 year. Maybe he would just look at it as, okay, I'll have another big year and I'll play good, and the next year I'm getting $50 million a year because I'll have 2 good years in a row. Maybe that's how he's looking at things. And if that's the case, I mean, he's an older guy, right? The threat of a short-term deal is not quite the same for him as it is for a younger guy who is trying to cash in big. Geno Smith is not going to be able to cash in big the same way that a younger Pro Bowl quarterback would be able to, because that guy might get a 4-year, 5-year deal, like what Russell Wilson got, like what Deshaun Watson got. Geno Smith knows probably the maximum length of his deal is 3 years, so maybe he doesn't view the 1-year deal as being that bad. I doubt it, but it's certainly possible. I could see it, right? It's almost like calling a bluff. You want to tag me? Okay, I'll sign the tag. Good luck building the team this offseason. And maybe the team is taking it off the table because they know it's an empty threat. Those are the things that would make sense to me. If that's the case, then I get it. Because having Geno play on the tag would be a big, big handicap. Unless he kills it. If he kills it, then you're going to be happy he played on the tag, because then you can tag him again next year and trade him for a lot. Probably a first-round pick plus. But tried to knock around a few different reasons why this might be happening. Let me know what you guys think. A lot of people were definitely getting geared up for the idea of a tag and trade of Geno Smith. Doesn't look like it's going to happen. Let me hear about it down below. Let's see what happens. We've got 2 more days to figure out what's going to happen here. See you guys later. Go Hawks.